are talking about power. Power is never going to be given away by anybody. It has to be taken.
In this Women Rising radio program, we featured 2 election protection activists.
All right, you're listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. We don't only bring you videos on Facebook and YouTube, but listen to our audio only, where you'll get shows like Cheryl Underwood and Blues Time in the City. You can pick us up at www.kuaw.org or go to the TuneIn app and search KUAW. Listen to us. We're on 24 hours a day. That's KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. And this is what you hear every day from noon till 2. Don't miss the Cheryl Underwood Show.
It's the jump off. Welcome to the Cheryl Underwood Show.
That's what I'm talking about, Courtney Black. Where are we going, Kyle Irby?
George R. Smith College in Sedalia, Missouri. It was open from 18.
It's Courtney Black with the facts on Cheryl Underwood Radio, and you are in the entertainment segment with Courtney and Kyle. It's time for a social media shout out. Today I'm shouting out from Instagram my girl Donna Webster. What's up, Donna? We appreciate you, girl. If you want me to shout you out, follow us on Instagram at Cheryl Underwood Radio.
You are listening to KUAW Radio, home of the all-new Jamal Bakes Show, and I'm Jamal Bakes, and thank you so very much for listening to the station bringing you talk, news, entertainment that you won't get anywhere else. KUAWN, of and about our community.
This is comedian Janelle Banks, and you are listening to KUAW, Kansas City.
This weekend is the last weekend before Thanksgiving, and on Blues Time in the City.
You say I be bashing men's.
Man bashing? That's Miss Jody. Man bashing. She's talking this weekend, and Tina Turner's birthday is on Thanksgiving Day, so we're showing Tina much love. Join me, Roger Bailey, for Blues Time in the City. Your weekend stop for the best.
All right, hello everyone. This is Tyrone Gethers Jr., your host of The Source of the Inkwell, live on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. You can check out this broadcast in a number of ways. You can hit us up on KUAW.org. You can also go to the TuneIn app on your mobile device. You can check out this broadcast visually on YouTube. Type in KUAW Radio, Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, type in KUAW Radio. You can also go to your Alexa or your Google Echo and say, hey, play KUAW Radio, and play it. Also, you can go to KUAW985@gmail.com for any questions, comments, or concerns, or you can call in at 816-599-6893. Today, I kind of got some news in regards to some parent feedback on virtual education. Virtual education has been going on, I would say, sporadically, starting in March and more permanent around November. And I was looking at some data, and it was telling me that the achievement gap is starting to widen more with virtual education. A lot of our students who are in urban areas or who are in rural areas where the internet is probably it's not as accessible in your suburban schools or your more prominent school districts, those kids are more than likely to learn at a slower, extremely slower pace. So they were saying that the achievement gap is going to widen due to virtual education. And then of course they were saying some remedies would be to possibly have an extended school day when we were all able to come back into the buildings, or having mandatory summer school, something that I don't see a lot of school districts doing. Now, in the 80s, we had school segregation that took place where they were letting students of color and prominently students of color join back into school systems that are predominantly white. Well, now you're starting to see those same students who are of color, as well as students who aren't doing too well economically. They are now being victim of this whole achievement gap. And I used to always repeat Aquilina Perry. She was not only was she one of my favorite teachers growing up, she was also one of my most trusted coworkers when I started teaching. She said the school segregation never went away. It still exists based on the zip code. And if you look at the zip code of some of these school districts, you see more prominent schools getting more resources than schools that are in different zip codes. So I kind of sat and I thought about a few things. 2020 has been a year of reflection. They say that there's always a blessing and a mess, and one blessing that I'm seeing in this mess of 2020 is it's giving me time to think about a lot of things. 2020 is also the year of you should have been doing this a long time ago, in regards to with the washing of the hands and being tolerant of other people and having different routes of education. But then it also kind of had me sit and think about the state of education in general. And I've been talking to a lot of my colleagues and close counterparts and family members, and I came up with something. And what I came up with was people who have a problem with black parents shouldn't teach black children. And I'll say that again. People who have a problem with black parents should not teach black children. Now, there's always been systematic racism in school setting, and this is not up for debate. It is. I mean, the curriculum says that, the law says that, the distribution of wealth says that, and it primarily falls on people of color more than most black children. And the more and more I reflect on education, the more and more I see a lot of this institutionalized racism when it comes to children of color, predominantly black children. Now, I remember when I was working in one particular school district, there was a teacher who was a science teacher. She was a very educated woman, but she said one of the dumbest things that could ever come out of an educator's mouth. And she said that she teaches her students, when they talk about, anatomy, that blacks have an extra muscle. Yeah. An extra muscle in their legs to make them run faster and jump higher. And I said, "You teach that?" She said, "Yeah, I definitely teach that because it's true." Now, I'm gonna say something, and I know I might get some flack behind it, but it is what it is. She was a Teach for America teacher. And if you're not familiar with Teach for America, I'm not bashing the organization, but they put people in the classroom faster without going through a good bulk of the traditional teaching. And when she said that, I said, when you make comments like that, it really lessens the validity of your program. That you're actually teaching these students that black people have an extra muscle in their legs to make them run faster and jump higher. And you're an educator. And that really bothered me hearing that, because she had kids being taught this. On the D.L. Hughley show today, they were talking about the situation in California, where they were making white teachers take a class saying that you were born on you're here on stolen land, and you're racist. It was something to that regard. And although they may not have agreed with forcing teachers to go through that, he did agree and say, and he did say something where I agreed, that a good chunk of the racial ideals that we get is from the schools. It's definitely from the school. I've actually seen curricula that was extremely racist. I've actually heard teachers say extremely racist things. There was one guy, he and I had an argument where he felt that Asia was the biggest continent. And I told him, I said, no, it's not. I said it was Africa. And then he tried to debate with me that the Middle East was not a part of Africa. And we all know that it was, if you look at, your history books. And so, I mean, you got stuff like that. So parents, this broadcast is really dedicated to you, because see, this is what you all do. You all take your kids out of inner city schools and you rush them to schools that are in predominantly white school districts because you feel that your child is getting a better education. Now, yeah, they may have a better opportunity, but let's really look at what you're doing here. When you put your child in these schools where they're not used to seeing you or your kid walking down the hall, what do you think is really happening in these classrooms? And of course, you're going to say, well, Tyrone, what you're saying is no. Because I had a particular student who, that was a teacher who used to teach in the Raytown School District with me. And Raytown is a pretty diverse district. That's one thing I like about it. And this teacher goes to teach at a district farther south down the highway. I just say that. And she came to visit one day and she said, yeah, we had a lot of students running around. And one student in particular was a black male. And I said, okay. And she said, I pulled him aside and I told him, you need to understand how the rules of the white man are if you want to be successful here. Blew my mind that she told this student that. Now, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And immediately, it just messed me up that this woman did this. And what I'm noticing is I'm seeing teachers who want to make a difference. They go to predominantly black school districts or predominantly Hispanic school districts to make their bones, so to speak, to at least get a year up under their belt or two. And then immediately they leave and go to these other districts. And that's what we're seeing. Just like when you see, look at the soccer program in Africa. A lot of your better soccer players are from Africa, but the teams are horrible because you're pulling all the better players out of those teams. So what you're doing in these in these urban school districts is you're taking all the intellectually gifted children, the athletes, the administrators, the teachers, and you're pulling them out of these school districts and you're placing them in areas to where they're not, they're not as valued where they were. Now, what we should be doing is building up our districts in the urban core. And those who are socioeconomically are not up to par to the standards, you need to be building up those rural school settings. We need to really stop with this whole fighting to get a seat at a table. You're fighting to get a seat at a table that doesn't want to serve you. And if you do get a seat, it's not a comfortable seat, and you're not getting the same meal that everyone else is getting. Instead, you have the ability to make your own table, forge your own meals. But yet and still, we continuously fight to go through the same traumatic tragedy or traumatic drama of, I finally fought all my life to get here, for scraps. And we shouldn't do that with our children's educations. Because what I see on the regular is horrible. It is horrible and it's depraved what these children go through. And then on top of that, parents, you take your kids out of these school districts. And I ask every school district I'm in, I ask the kids, can you tell me who your superintendent is? And tell me who your board president is. If you don't know who your school board president is or your superintendent, that's a problem. Because you need to know who to go to if there's an issue here in your school building. We got parents who don't even know who the school's teacher, who their children's teachers are or anything. And now, guess what? School districts are capitalizing on parents who come from these urban settings. Okay, you don't have a good business acumen, or we're going to make it to where you can't even come into school buildings. Let's put it like this. Of course, you're going to say, well, shoot, COVID got parents not coming to school buildings. No, it was going on way before that. I remember when I first started teaching, parents were allowed to come in and, sit in on the kids' class, or I could sit and talk to a parent outside the door, pop visit. Can't do that no more. When parents stop caring, then you allow them to put individuals in the school settings that are not for your children. Malcolm said it best. We let our enemies teach our kids. And that's what you're doing. You're letting oppressive ideals teach your kids. And I'm not going to sit up here and keep my mouth shut on this. No, there are extreme racist people educating our children. There are. I sat there and witnessed in school districts jokes being said to kids that were racially inappropriate. I've seen parents being labeled, inappropriate based on where they live. Seen all that stuff, and it still goes on. There are children who are afraid to go home and tell their parents about their racist teachers. And then there was one setting where a student was called a nigger. Now, of course, the gentleman was a black male, calling another black male that word, but the parent didn't address it. And then the school was like, okay, you know, we'll talk to the guy, but no, come on now. That's ridiculous. I don't care who you are. You call my child that, it's going to be an issue. But this parent, did not step foot in that school after being told what his son was called. And then what happened after that? You know, they saw that the dad didn't really, care. They ended up putting the kid out of the school. So I'm going to go through it. I'm going to, educate parents on what's going on in regard with their district. You all need to really be aware of who and what is educating your children. I remember I worked with an organization that allowed me to go in different schools. And for the most part, the schools that myself and my tandem partner had were good schools. However, there's one school in the city of Kansas City, Missouri, that you all think is a crown jewel because it looks good. They invest a lot of money in it, and when you walk up in there, the building is quote unquote state of the art, but really it's not. There are teachers that were calling kids racial slurs that got fired by one administration, but as soon as they got rid of her, they brought that racist individual back, and that guy is still there to this day. And I'm still having parents complaining about what comes out this man's mouth, and he's still employed by this school system. You know, there's teachers who I've seen in the same school building who would sit up in a room full of children and talk to himself and not talk to the kids and teach a whole lesson without addressing the children. But then when you have teachers that step up against that behavior, they get rid of them. So parents, first things first, you got to find your school district. Like I said, the zip code is what matters. Find that school district and see what demographic of people are there. And I'm gonna be real with you. And you may not agree with what I'm saying, but if your child is in the minority, they may be treated differently. I worked in the school building, and this student, good thing you sitting down for this one, Mr. Walker. This kid said to me, he didn't say it to me, I heard him saying it. He said, for Halloween, he wants to be a wealthy landowner. And he pointed to two black males, and he said, and I want them to be my servants. I said, hold up, man. I know you didn't say you want to be a slave master. You want these two brothers to be slaves. And he said, well, you know. And I looked at the principal, and the principal is he's an African male. I said, sir, you going to address this? He started laughing. He thought I was funny. I said, no. And I could tell when the kid made that comment, those two young men were very uncomfortable. I'm like, are you not going to address this? Turns out the boy's mom and dad were high, they donated to the school. So already we got the money and the privilege allowing this boy to say whatever he wanted to do. Same kid hauled off and slapped a girl. They said, why'd you slap her? Because she wouldn't shut up. The young lady was answering a question, so this kid slaps her. No suspension. Then, when I was working there, the kid was in my class, and the same young man hauled off and said, he watched the movie, and then we got up, and it was Christmas break, and they released the kids to go. He said, Mr. Gethers. I said, yes. Happy Kwanzaa. Trying to be cute with it. I said, hold on, young man. He said, yes. I said, I do celebrate Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa to you, too. And he looked, because he knew his little comment didn't hold no water. But the fact that we have a child that's allowed to do all this stuff in the name of racism, and he has not been dealt with, he's already graduated, but he was not dealt with in this school system, goes to show you what they hold close to heart. That's a problem. And, and then, of course, when the parents reacted to him slapping her, the school tried all they can to try to smooth it over. Well, I don't care what he got going on with him. You don't put your hands on a woman like that. Nobody. No one. So, this school has a lot of issues. And every time a parent tells me that their kid go there, I'm like, you need to watch out for that. I don't care. You can send me a letter in the mail to sanction me, but I'm still going to keep talking because they wrong. And everyone good up in that school building that was black, they ran them up out of there. We had a gentleman up in there that was teaching kids pure history that was backed up. And this is the thing that gets me, and I'll go back to my list. This brother was teaching these children black history. And the black history and the African history that he was teaching these kids were not only validated by Afrocentric sources, there were European sources that say, yes, this is good history. So he made sure he covered himself, but they ran him up out of there. And everyone else taught that same curriculum. I was one included. And then, but the funny part about it was the kids that was taught that course, their academics shot way up. Their math levels shot up. Their reading levels shot up. Their history scores shot up. Yeah. But anyway, let me stop. Okay, also, parents, you also need to pull up your school's profile. When you click on the school's profile, it shows basic information about the students and teachers in the school. So you want to see if the school building is, let's say the school building is 70% black. If the school is 70% black, 20% Mexican, Hispanic, and 10% white, but 90% of your teachers are white, that's an issue. The balance is not healthy. Don't fall for that lie that they're not applying. Oh, they're applying, because there was someone that sat there and said, I applied for this particular school district. They told me that they weren't, that I wasn't hired. But on the flip side, they're saying that people of color aren't applying. But when we pulled the employment records, it showed that a lot of people of color were applying, but they weren't hiring them. There are also several links you can find out too. I want you also, parents, look at the SPED classes. If you have more children of color in the SPED program versus the gifted program, I see this a lot. That's a problem. So you mean to tell me out of all these kids, the majority of the white kids are gifted, whereas the majority of the black kids are in SPED? Explain that to me. Or the majority of your black males are in SPED, but not gifted. And the sad part about it is schools know that there's a disparity in that. But yet and still, they continuously to push that narrative. And that narrative is bull. It doesn't add up. So the majority of your black males are SPED. But when you look in your school's program, or your school's gifted program, you have nothing but white females, a few white males, like one or two, a couple of black females. And then someone else made a comment. They said, shoot, when you look at the black people in gifted classes, look at the complexion. That whole paper bag test. It's real. You can go and look up all this stuff yourself. People sit here and they say, why isn't someone on the inside not saying this stuff? You have someone that's taught almost 20 years in multiple areas that's telling you what's going on. And you all are still not accepting this. You're accepting the lies versus the truth. And it's sad. These are your children. There are kids that are gifted kids who are not allowed in gifted programs based on how they look, who their mom or dad is, or where they stay. And that goes for white kids too, for all my white listeners too. There are some socially economic issues that are going on. Matter of fact, I know for a fact there are white kids who are not being accepted in these programs based on where their mom and dad stay, based on how many kids their mama got. That's wrong. Stop letting this stuff happen. Stop it. Seriously, there are a lot of smart kids who are in regular ed classes all across this nation that aren't admitted to gifted programs based on who they are and based on who their parents are. They say no child left behind. Shoot, must be your child. Must be mine. Yeah, it's crazy. Y'all should be sharing the mess out of this video and start holding these schools accountable. All right, next one. Found the school disciplinary report. Here's another one too. One of the most important parts is a school disciplinary report. It tells you what's going on. And if you really know somebody, they can break down and tell you what are the high flyers in regards to people getting sent out of schools. Black students and kids from other marginalized groups. And when I say other marginalized groups, I'm talking about your poor whites. you know what, middle class whites too, Hispanic students, immigrant students. These groups are more likely to be suspended, expelled, or referred to the police. Or in one school district, they refer your kid to what is it? I don't want to say. I want to have the most PC mental health places. You can also see who's most likely to be arrested in school by clicking on the school-related arrest links. Now, your schools are supposed to. This is public information. They're not. They can't tell you who, but you can see the numbers of these kids. And for the most part, I'm seeing more black students and marginalized students set up like this. I've heard someone tell kids, you can't do the same thing other students do and get the same result. You can't do that. That was told to me when I was a child, because I had a lot of students who were white when I was growing up in elementary school. And I'm gonna be real with you. My parents were cool with their parents, and they knew what was going on. And one thing I can say is those white students who, a lot of them I'm real, a few of them I'm real close to this day, they recognized game and they peeped it. They peeped it. And they knew that wasn't right. Now, I wasn't suspended or anything, but they saw what was going on. And I felt comfortable talking to their parents. Their parents talked to mine about what was going on, and it was real. See, we don't got that going on right now. See, we allow upper administration in school districts to allow us to believe this bull. I'm telling you, parents, y'all need to sit down and actually talk. PTAs should be encompassed of parents of all groups, not just the status quo. That's an issue. Your kid don't know what's going on, or they don't benefit of what's going on. And it's a problem that you have your marginalized people kicked out of school more than anybody else. And you know what? Sad part about it is these kids are starting to peep game on this too. And they talking. But we not listening, parents. We not listening, teaching advocates, because we afraid that someone's going to fire us for telling the truth. No, man. If this kid is being discriminated against and you speak on their behalf and they fire you or they catch you up, guess what? Now the school district got 2 lawsuits. Y'all need to realize, teachers, you don't work for the principal. You don't work for the parents. You don't work for the state or DeVos, who's on her way out. You are an agent of education. You work for the entity of education itself. Because guess what? If your school lets you go, you're still a teacher. You're still an educator. Matter of fact, some of your best teachers are educators outside the 4 walls. So if you sit up here and you think about it, this whole virtual education is really bringing out some of your better teachers, and it's also exposing some of your worst ones. So shout out to those teachers, like I was talking about last week, who's making it happen with the virtual. Be prepared for the opposition. Come on now. Because there are some teachers, and I wrote a poem about this, who sit back and talk about your kid because they don't got the money that they think they should have, or their names sound funny because it's an ethnic name. You got a peep game where you are. Hey, you got teachers who will pull up, and I'm not bashing teachers. I'm bashing them racist ones who are still employed. You got racist individuals. I'm not even gonna call them racist individuals who will sit up here and start already setting things up because your kid pulled up in the front of the school building and they getting dropped off. And you know what? You got some folk. See, we can't win for losing. You got people who are upset because on one side of the coin, yeah, that kid's proven to be a stereotype. But then on the other side of the coin, they mad because that kid is not a stereotype. So you can't win for losing. So you got to understand what's going on. And you got to, good friend of mine said, y'all got to start calling them out. Call them out for their behavior. Call them out. When you present the district data showing black students or marginalized students are more likely to be disciplined, you will inevitably find people who try to say that's because black students misbehave more. That's untrue. You show me the data where it says that black kids misbehave more, and guess what? People actually say that. I went home and told a family member that I was working in a school, and this gentleman actually said that. And she said the fact that he felt comfortable saying that to you is an even deeper problem. And it is. They're trying to push the narrative that black and marginalized students misbehave more because of their color, because of their culture, because of their religion, or because of where they stay, or because they don't make enough money. And we fall for that. And guess what? Now in schools, they got kids signing off on their own suspension papers. Mr. Walker, let's pretend this is an alternate reality. Okay, you know in the Avengers when they said they got different timelines? Let's pretend in another timeline that Tyrone Gethers is your son. Okay? I get in trouble in school. Instead of calling you, they had me sign off on my own stuff. And you don't know that I've been in ISS. But you find out later on I was in ISS. What would your reaction be?
I'd be mad at both. Mad at you and mad at the school.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're in trouble, I need to know that so I can help correct it.
Exactly. It's all about nipping in the bud.
Yes.
Because now, daddy gonna kick my A and the school's A.
yeah, because that ain't right.
Yeah, it's not. And you got kids signing off on documentation that's gonna be on their record without their parents' consent. I mean, I don't, no. But you know, you parents sit back. I called a parent one time. The parent pretty much told me the kid runs the show. Because the school's not letting them know what's going on. You can't. We have a comment on the text line. Hold on mine. Well, on my cell phone. Someone shot me a text. They said, hold the administration accountable. Teachers are empowered to be a strong ally for students. Stand up for what is right. Set aside the color of the student and stand up for what is right. Correct. And you know what? I'm going to take it a step further. The good thing about public schools is public schools are funded with public money. And public schools are ran by individuals in that district. So theoretically, in that timeline, if Mr. Walker is not happy with how the school is treating his son or handling his son, guess what? Mr. Walker can run for school board. And when Mr. Walker gets on the school board, he is a part of the governing body that dictates the comings and goings and finances of the school. And if Mr. Walker really wants to make some noise, he can run for president of the school board, which is a powerful position. Because the school board, they're the ones who vote on your budget. They're the ones who vote on the hirings and the firings. They're the ones who hold that school superintendent and his cabinet accountable. Parents, you have more power than what you think. It's like, man, what is that superhero? There's so many of them. It's like, you know what? Black Panther. Black Panther said the coldest game to a woman. He sat back and said, look, you have the power of a god, yet you don't use it. You allow them to hold you back. Unlock your potential and show everyone how powerful you really are. And when he said that, I said, ooh, Lord, that was cold. And the sister peeped game, and she showed her full ambience of power and destroyed everything in sight. So, parents, you have the power to run your child's school system if it's not right. Now, keep in mind, we got some parents that, they don't handle their business right. But on the same token, you have a lot of parents who do. And if they are aware of the mess that goes on in these schools, can you imagine if we had a school board of parents, not people who live there? Now check this out. There are some school boards who have school board members who don't even have kids in the district. I personally feel you shouldn't be on the board if your kid's not in the district. That's just my preference. Or if you haven't had kids in the district. So imagine if you had parents who have kids currently in the district right now. Now keep in mind, parents, if your kid is in the school district, you can't walk around throwing your weight around saying, you know, you can't talk to my kid crazy. No, I had a school board president. I had both her sons, and she knew Mr. Gethers let loose on her kid, and she appreciated that. Be yourself. Don't sit up here and walk on eggshells. Because on the other, I have seen some school board members, you know, expect their kids be handled with a, kid glove. No, Your kid do something wrong, they're gonna get jacked up. They're gonna learn a lesson. And hey, and that school board member was very appreciative. Mr. Gethers called me, something ain't right. So, it goes hand in hand. But I think if we have more conscious parents on the school board, then we have more, Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something that goes in all of our government, all our political life,
Right.
And stuff, is that we've got to have more people involved.
Exactly. And if you have more people involved, then you wouldn't hear things like, that teacher telling that kid, you need to understand the white man's rules if you want to be successful here. And, and I really want to call the person's name out. You know what? I'll play a game. If those who are listening, if you want me to call this person out, I'll do it. Comment on the text on the stream here. Comment, and I tell you the person's name, and I tell you what school district they work in. I do it. Yeah. Can I do that? Yeah. I mean, we gotta call these people out. How about this? I tell you what school district the person's in. I do that. Yeah. Because Mr. Walker was saying, hey, we gotta follow it right. And of course, in the other timeline, that's Dad, so I gotta be right. So what I do, I will tell you the school district. So if someone says, hey, what's the school district, so I can at least be aware, I will tell you the school district. Now, I was gonna tell you the actual school, but I'll tell you the school district. So if I see someone comment and say, hey, I want to know, I will tell you the school district where this happened. And it's a school district where a lot of people are running to put their kids in too. You'll be shocked. Well, no, I'm sorry, you won't be shocked. Right. Let's see. Parents, if you are confronted with a situation where your child is being discriminated against, you need to put together a clear argument. And when I say clear, don't go up there, with the yelling and the finger pointing and all that kind of stuff, because they want that. They want people to be, they want people to come at them with stereotypical, with the least amount of intellect possible. Let them know that someone who is not in their socioeconomic group, or someone that's not in their religion, or their race, or their culture, can be extremely intelligent, if not on the same level, exceeding your level. So come with facts, come with documentation. Even if I'm your kid's teacher, if you feel that something's wrong, hey, bring me with the documentation. Show me. We're in the show me state. So you could say the data shows that black students are 10% of students at the school population, but 28% of the students who are suspended. Research shows that disparities in this tend to be due to discriminatory school discipline policies. Ooh, I say that again. Discriminatory school disciplinary policies. Now, remember that prison in the pipeline theory? What else has discriminatory policies? Laws. So if your kids are going through discriminatory policies in school, they're just being prepared for discriminatory laws. So they're being set up for that. From the cradle to the prison to the grave. So parents, you got to peep what's going on. There are some parents, I kind of lost a little respect for them, because it was brought to their attention that it was discriminatory while their kid was set up, suspended or disciplined. But the parents said, well, I ain't going to fight it. Why not? And right there, you're showing a defeated attitude in front of your child. That's not cool. My child is going to see his daddy as a fighter, and my son sees that. He sees his dad fighting for him. As soon as that little guy took his first breath, I knew it's my God-given right to stand up for this kid until he can stand up for himself. And then when he's able to stand up for himself, I need to be his ally. That's how it should be. Parents, it's your responsibility to fight for your children. Like I tell my students, for 20 years I've been telling my students, you have an advocate. It's your parent. If you're not getting what you need here, talk to your parent. Now it's sad that kids can't even look at their parents for their advocate. They come to their teachers. Mr. Gethers, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Fletcher, Ms. Zosler, Miss Keys, Mr. Green, Coach Darrington, Mr. Wilson, Mrs. McKeel, Mr. Davis. All these names I threw out are teachers that I know for a fact that advocate for kids. Now, I know there are a lot more, but those are some that I'm close to that I know advocate for kids. And we don't mind doing that, but it's only more powerful if the parents with us. I mean, if we're presenting you with the information, hey, your kid was done wrong, we got you. Let us fight with you. Because if the parent's sitting back like, I don't want to say nothing, then do you think it's going to happen? I mean, no, it's not. Especially if you got somebody on the inside that got your back. Hey, I saw it. This is messed up. Your kid was done wrong. And if we do this, it can be reversed. Oh, no, stop. That's that plantation mentality. For real. Freedom is right there. All you got to do is take one step that way. I don't want to, man. I'm going to stay right here. Y'all need to really get off of that. Because, yes, some school districts are ran like plantations. Shut up and take this abuse. No. Liberate yourselves. Just like how they said Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. No, he didn't. You can't free anything that's been freeing themselves. Same thing for education. Same thing with liberation education. Come on now. Parents, that school is not the only school for your teacher or for your kid. That teacher is not the only teacher for your student. It's not. And you would think with what's going on right now, this video will be shared a lot more. So I really hope that you all are getting something out of this and sharing this video. Also, get more detailed information on the issue. The Department of Education's database is a starting point, but collecting more data can help you identify exactly what changes need to happen in your school. Create a list of follow-up questions to ask your school administrators, and if you can't get the answers you need, create a survey for students or teachers or parents to collect the information directly from them. So, you have that right. Now, I'm not saying all schools are racist. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have a lot of schools who have people in there who let racist agendas occur. Now, there are some schools that when they see that stuff go on, they stop it right there. Boom, boom, boom. We're not having this here. So you need to, gear yourselves towards schools like that. Also, you might want to check out this too when you're in schools. Find out which teachers suspend kids the most. And if your kid's in that class, find out why that teacher is suspending kids. And look at the demographic of the kids that are being suspended. Are they all male? Are they all female? I work with a teacher who was very hard on girls. I mean, this guy would treat girls bad. And it was to the point to where he had a reputation of doing this stuff. He would take the little girls and I'm not going to go in detail, but the stuff this guy did, it was a problem. And I had to come at him with this. The other teachers, as a matter of fact, one of the brothers who I work with liked this video. I know you know who I'm talking about because you saw it at another school where you worked there with this man. And it ended up being his downfall because you can't just discriminate like that hard on young ladies like that. And one little girl, she stepped up and said, look, I'm not doing this. And that behavior got her removed out of that school. So you got to actually look at that. And I want to give a shout out to the principal that I worked with because he peeped it. And he said, you know what? This is what we're going to do. And he had a plan set in place to where it would not happen again. And when that plan was put in place while he was principal, it never happened again. And of course, when he was moved to another building, then the behavior came back up again. But I mean, you know, we got to put plans in place to expose the behavior and stop the behavior. I remember I was working in a school, and this vice principal, this kid called me. Well, you know, okay, he didn't call me that. He referred to me as that. He said, "Yeah, Mr. Gethers, man, that's my nigga. That's my nigga." And the teacher said, "Really?" So instead of the teacher addressing the behavior, she sends the kid to me and writes down what the kid said. And at first I got a little upset. And I said, okay, you need to go to the office. And the principal, or the vice principal at the time, she's no longer a principal, which is a good thing. She said, well, I don't know what to do about that. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, he called you the N-word. These are exact words, but you all use that word all the time. I said, first of all, you all don't do that all the time. And I don't represent a whole demographic of people. I don't use the word. I said, so what you said was totally off kilter. Well, I don't know what to do. I said, okay. Being that you don't know what to do, I'll handle it. So the kid, of course, was an ELL student, and he was like new to the United States. And I said, instead of being behavioral, I'm gonna be more cognitive. Parents, when your kids get in trouble, I want you to ask them, or ask the school, were you behavioral or were you more cognitive? Behavioral means they address the behavior, boom, you're out of here. Cognitive, let's see why this happened. And you see that happen with other kids versus some. So I said, let me be more cognitive with this. So I did my research. I found out he was new to the country and everything, and he was trying to blend in with the culture. So I asked him. I said, "Do you know what a nigga is?" And he said, "Yeah, it's a black male." And I said, "Well, you know what? This is gonna be a teachable moment." I said because and I broke down what the word was. I told him what the definition was. I told him it had negative connotations, not just to men of African descent, but also men of Spanish speaking descent too. And it blew his mind. And then I said, let me talk to your mom. I called his mom up to the school. Me and his mom sat down and talked, and we were clear. Now, if that vice principal did her job right, she would have done that, and not me. Now, suspension is not, see, sometimes we think the suspension is the problem. I mean, the problem fixer. Really, it's not. Education is the problem fixer. And when that young man got educated, he chose his choice of words differently. Further down the line, I'm in ISS with some students of mine. White student referred to me as nigga. And I looked and I said, what'd he say? And my two Mexican students ran him down and told him why he shouldn't say that word, why it was disrespectful, not only to me, but to them as Mexican women. I mean, they ran him down. And that kid looked at me like, okay. So then so I went to another vice principal. This is a white man. And the kid said, what? He said, oh, we don't do that here. So he called the kid's mom and broke down to the mom what happened. The mom said, well, that's what kids say. He said, first of all, your son should not call a black man, that term. And also, he shouldn't be using that term nowhere. This is an institute of education. I mean, he broke it down to her. And because their mom was a fool and she was trying to endorse their behavior, that vice principal said, guess what? Your son is going to be at home with you for 3 days. So you need to talk to him. If he come back and say it again, it'll be 5. If he come back and say it again, it'll be 10. And then a hearing. I looked at him, I said, you know what? You are probably one of the best vice principals I've ever worked with. He said, oh, yeah. He said, we don't tolerate that here. Not at all. Not at all. And I'm glad the Kansas City, Missouri School District was able to keep that man employed because that man was the best. So, with saying that, I kind of went off on a tangent. But one thing I want you all to look at, though, parent, is you got to propose solutions. See, sometimes you got to educate the ignorance. And I think my man King Kihei says that. Sometimes people do stupid stuff because they just stupid. And you got to give them a good dose of education. I'm going to show you what you did was wrong. This is the wrong that you did. Now I'm going to explain to you why it was wrong. Now I'm going to put together a plan so you won't do that stupid crap again. So parents, you need to come up with that. Teachers that advocate for your students, come up with that. Address the behavior. Tell the racist individual why they're doing stupid things and educate their stupidity. Because see, a lot of people do racist things, not out of hate, but also out of stupidity too. And for the most part, when you educate them on the racist stuff that they do, then, okay, thank you for educating me. I won't do it again. See, I always give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to racially inappropriate things. I get cognitive with it. And I say, okay, are you doing this because you're not too bright or because it's hatred? And if it's hatred, you will know it when you see it. Because when you're trying to educate them on that, they're fighting you tooth and nail. But if it's someone who's legit not too bright with it, yeah, they'll sit there and be educated. But then guess what? Even if they're not really taking in what you're saying, the fact that they sat down and went through your educational process and said they got it, that's more documentation for you. Hold people accountable for your children. If people are blatant with their racism, you need to be blatant with your activism. This shirt, you like it? It was made by Mommy and Son Designs. Shout out to Adila Zosla. Mommy and Son Designs. She made this for me. So, and you can find her on Etsy. You can also find her on Facebook. Mommy and Son Designs. So, if they're blatant with their racism, be blatant with your activism. Stand up for your students, teachers. Stand up for your children, parents. Stand up for your population, administrators. If you see individuals in your school setting that are doing racially inappropriate things towards your students, and I didn't even get on staffs, but I'm focusing on the students because they're children, you got to stand up for them. We are their advocates. We fight for them. We go through the fire so they don't have to. It is a shame that these children are burning in the flames of racial discrimination. And not only are we watching, we're putting kindling on the fire so they can burn even faster. All to not have the light shed on us. That's a sin. It is our right and our duty to educate and protect our children. If you have any questions or comments to assist you, I've actually went into schools and exposed discriminatory behavior. I can help you. And if I can't help you, I know individuals that can. And when I say discrimination, it transcends race. It goes to race, it goes to gender, it goes to culture, it goes to religion, it goes to socioeconomic status, it goes to sexual preference, it goes to gender preference. It's across the board. And our babies are being subjected to this stuff, and parents, it's happening all the time. And guess what? Now that it's virtual, you don't even see it. It's not as obvious. The gap is getting wider and wider and wider. We got to do our job to close it. When you see the behavior, expose it. This is the Source of the Inkwell. I am Tyrone Gethers Jr., and in the Inkwell, education is ink. Let it overflow and let it stain permanent. God bless. See you next week.
All right, you're listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's Global.